Hey everybody, welcome to Satsang on yet another beautiful day. No matter where you are and no matter what the weather is, it is a beautiful day. Because I said so, and I encourage you to do the same. So good to be here. As always, this is my favorite time of the week when I get to talk about the things that are dearest to my heart. I mean, I get to a lot. But in satsang, that's the only focus. That's the only thing that is on offer here in satsang. The camera every now and then does that. I don't know what's causing it. I've tried to figure it out, and I've just, okay. I accept that it has to take a break for a second. The camera bio break, I guess. But satsang is this time where the time can be dedicated exclusively to pondering the nature of ourselves, the nature of our true being. You know, the byline I have on all of the non-dual videos I make is the non-duality and the true nature of the self, and exploring the true nature of ourselves. That's why we're here. And it's also the whole thrust behind non-dual self-inquiry. It isn't about any kind of getting up any kind of results. It isn't about making certain things happen. It's not even about improving your life. That's all, you know, as Christ said, seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all the rest of that stuff will come. But if you seek that first, and what he means by the kingdom of heaven is your true nature, who you really are. And once you see who you really are, even a little bit, you automatically recognize that this is the truth of everyone, that we all live in the same truth. We all breathe the same truth. We are all the same essential being, different instances, right? Different appearances of that infinite one being. And in every single one of us, the entirety of the infinite potential is made manifest. To ponder that this is your nature. It's a discovery made for the sake of the discovery, and not for any other purpose. Seeking truth for truth's sake, not for the benefit that it might bring you, not for the improvements that it may make. Because as long as our attention is focused on some result, we will be measuring the quality and success of our inquiry based on whether or not those results are appearing. And our inquiry will really be about, how do I get these results? Even if it appears to be very, very non-dual and spiritual on the surface. Underneath, the motivation will be flawed. And oftentimes there'll be an enormous amount of frustration because you won't know who you are and you won't get what you want. Most of the time, this idea that I just have to kind of put my emotional state, my vibration into a certain form, and I'm going to get what I want, is very naive and really prone to all sorts of manipulations and painful disappointments. Because the whole process never asks the fundamental question: who am I? I'm aware of a desire for something. I'm aware of how that desire would impact my life, that it would make my life better. I'm aware of the feeling of desire and the object of desire. All of that's clear. I can describe it in detail. But then you ask, yeah, but what about the I? Who are you? Who is it that wants that? Who is it that has decided that's important? You can describe in great detail the desire and the object of desire, but ask to describe you, and suddenly a hush falls over the crowd. That's why non-dual self-inquiry is the most unique and significant of all spiritual practices, because that's all it wants to know. The inquiry is not how do I go about something or why is this happening. The question, it is always some variation on the question, who am I? Who am I? Before any desire arises, because obviously if a desire arises, I've got to be here first. And every desire, however big or small that arises, you were there prior to that arising. You watched it arise. You watched it dance. You watched it either fulfill itself or just not be a desire anymore, just going away. And so the witness of all the activity of body, mind, heart, emotions is who we want to know. Who is that? Now, this is actually an easy inquiry, except for one thing. We have all been habituated into identifying with or thinking of ourselves in a certain way. We have a picture of ourselves. We have a self-portrait going on all the time. I'm like this. I'm a man. I'm a woman. I'm white. I'm Asian. I'm black. I'm Hispanic. I speak Dutch. I'm a Christian. I'm a Buddhist. I'm a lefty. I'm a righty. We all have all of these things that I am this. I am this. I am this. I am this. Right? But prior to any of that, what was here? Who is the I that is not referenced by anything else? And because this is such a deeply ingrained habit, and it makes the inquiry difficult. I'm just organizing my thoughts here. Why is it such a ingrained habit? Why is it so difficult? Because that sense of I, that self-portrait, was formed before thinking took place. It started to form even before language took place. At some place along the line, there was energetically in the nervous system, a sense of self began to emerge, and the entire nervous system began to organize around it. Now, it wasn't real. It wasn't really who you were. It never was. But because it became dominant, the whole energy system, your programming, your conditioning, all your relationships, your language, your character, all of these things formed around this silent, invisible sense of I. And so it becomes a struggle for us now, because even when I get it, even when I see this isn't me, the entire momentum of your life has been going along as if it were you. And the news has to make its way down here, down at the level of the energetic, which sits underneath underneath thoughts and mind. It sits underneath emotions. It even sits underneath sensations. It is another level altogether. And below that level is the I am. The I am that identifies with that energetic level. Below that is the absolute, the truth, the reality, which is what you are. So non-dual self-inquiry is, as Ramana Maharshi put it, go back the way you came. It's a turning of attention away from the thoughts and emotions and energy and all of that, all of the stuff that's going on up here, and walking yourself back to that most fundamental level, which is intuited and felt more than thought. It's easy to check it out. Just picture something in your life that you really want and don't have, and you will feel a certain kind of resistance to it. Think of something that would improve your life, right? That really would make a difference. That why would anything in the world want to resist that? And you will feel a sense of constriction. You'll feel a sense of resistance to it. That is the energetic sense of self, right? That does not want anything to change. Now, we can try to force it. We can do all sorts of techniques and stuff and temporarily get it to set aside. We start right in the beginning by suppressing it. But that doesn't really answer the question. Okay, this is going on. There's this inner conflict between me. There's these things that I'm desiring and improving, even the deep desire for enlightenment. Right? And then there's a resistance to it. There's that which is holding back, which is pushing back. The inquiry is in what is the nature of that is pushing back? And what is the nature of the desire? And to whom are those appearing? Now, could resistance or desire or anything at all exist if you weren't there first? Which means that prior to any of this, you were there. There's an existence that is prior to and separate from all of experience, because no experience could be had without you there to experience it. So without any experience, that is without emotion, without thought, without sensation, without interpretation, who are you? This is the pondering. This is the question to ask ourselves. And you'll find as you try to do it that, well, it's not as easy as it seems, but only because there's this habit energy of identification. You didn't even create that. It happened automatically. It's just part of the nature of life and functioning. We always show up with some sense of identity, no matter where you go, right? You go to a party, you go on a date, you go to work, you go to a friend's house. There's a certain sense of identity that goes with it. And it's not always the same. But somewhere along the line, that sense of identity, which for a child, you'll notice is very fluid, right? You know, I play with my granddaughter a couple times a week these days. And we'll be, we're playing library, right? So she's the librarian, I'm checking out books. And then, no, I want to do store now. Now I want to ride my bike. And she can just morph from one character into another without a second thought about it, without any degree of self-consciousness about it. This is the natural fluidity of just becoming who you need to be. This is who I am here, this is who I am here, but none of them are me. They're all different roles that we very naturally assume. Those identity remains even after enlightenment, because this is how we function in the world. The problem is that we've mistaken this fluid coming and going of identities, and we've narrowed it down to like one, this idea of who I am, which is called the egoic mind, and I believe myself to be that. And that belief installs itself into the entire energy system. So you are acting it out without even thinking about it. These assumptions are buried way, way down, even going beyond this life to past lives. So where do I take it from here? Well, something in my mouth. Who are you? If I tell you who you are, your mind will immediately turn it into a concept and you'll miss the point. My job as a teacher is to inspire you to want to ask that question yourself and to come to see it as so significant that it dwarfs every other desire. That's the job of the spiritual teacher, to point you to that, to point out where the potholes are in the road as well, all the obstacles that you will face, to warn you in advance, this is coming. This is how it works. But if you understand it, how it works, if you understand that this resistance is going to come, you can approach it with compassion. You can approach it with love. It won't intimidate you. So I'm going to leave it at that. I recognize now that I did not speak at all about what I thought I was going to speak of when I named this thing. So after I'm done, I'll change the name to something else. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for wanting to engage in this inquiry. It means the world to me. And to see many of you I've known for a while, though, and watched how you've developed and grown and become more and more committed and seeing more and more deeply who you truly are. Just be patient. At some point, the egg is going to crack open. The aperture is going to open, and it's not going to close again. So, let's see. Rosario. Hello, Rosario in Madrid, and Robbie in Romania, John in St. Andrews, Scotland. Ursula, Madeira Island. There's Ava in Poland. There's Carl in Ireland. Brent French. Gee, it would make my conservative Midwest mom so proud that I'm this stoked to show up to church every Sunday. Well, if they were truly preaching the word of God in truth, you would be. But they're not. They're teaching a watered down version of Christianity that bears no resemblance to the teachings of Christ. Just, it is in name only, really. Greetings from Denmark, says Dorte. Robbie Walterson, good to see you. Hello, Mary and Jay. There's English. Hey, G, and everyone. Hey to you, English and the natural way, which is my buddy Dale. Alessandra in Monterey, California. Beautiful there in Niagara Falls, says Mary. Hi, GP. Hi, Facebook user. Grateful to be here. I've been enjoying your course. Oh, I'm so glad. So glad. I'm not sure who you are because it's only showing me Facebook user, but there's several people that watch on Facebook and don't come to YouTube. Facebook doesn't reveal that unless you specifically give permission. There is a link in the description that will allow you to give permission for your name to show up if you want that. If you don't, you don't have to. Play on. IG, I wonder if you know some good treatment for releasing trauma. The understanding is there, but often I feel anxious and depressed. Many times it comes without the narration. The hardest time is when I wake up and I feel really sick and get easily agitated. Last night I woke up having a panic attack. I really don't know why it is like this. I often feel a bit better in the evening, sometimes. Sometimes I wonder if I got GAD or bipolar. My grandma was bipolar and took her own life. I would appreciate if you could give me some advice on this. Thank you. Happy to. Happy to. The important thing is with trauma is to recognize that what trauma is the mechanism of the nervous system has had to shut down a powerful energy because it couldn't deal with it. If any event happens in my life and I can deal with it in one way or another, directly, which into the fight or flight mechanism, and a little more sophisticated with human beings, can I do something about what has happened? Or am I absolutely stuck in powerlessness, which happens sometimes, right? If there's something we can do about it, the energy that has now been focused to deal with what has arisen, in whatever the event might have been, it discharges itself and no trauma takes place, right? Because everything has been able to function the way it was initially intended to. That is, a danger presents itself, I deal with it, either by running away, which is always the first choice, and then fighting, which is the second choice that is never made unless it's absolutely necessary, naturally. We're doing it all the time now, but that's another subject. If for some reason something comes up that I cannot deal with, I cannot run away from it, and I cannot fight it, a trauma happens. And a trauma is nothing but the nervous system taking all the energy that was supposed to go into protection and pushing it off somewhere, and then developing layers of behavior to keep it from coming up. Now, the deepest traumas are the existential traumas that happen when we're a child. When you are a child, you are in a constant state of powerlessness for a decade or more, right? The first sign of taking your own power is the rebellious teenager. We all, mom and dad are so stupid. We become teenagers. We're trying out power. There is some autonomy to our lives now. Prior to that, there really wasn't, right? Even if mom and dad gave us a few options we could choose from, they held all the cards and do all the way up through your teenage years. So you're only rebelling against the power because you don't have any. Right? So we're in for an extremely long period of time, compared to any other critter on the planet, this state of total powerlessness and vulnerability. Now, as I mentioned before, when you are in a powerless state and you have to defend, run away or fight, you can't, because you're powerless. You cannot deal with it. This is what happens to all of us as children. Especially when our parents aren't taking very good care of us for whatever reason, be it just a subtle demeaning or a diminishing, a neglect, or just downright abuse. There's nothing we can do about it. And here's the most critical of all of them, and that is when I, as a child, simply innocently express who I am. Right? Which I can't help but doing, right? I cannot help but express myself because that's what I am, right? And that the expression of myself as I am earns the displeasure or punishment of my family. That I am in the most difficult of all circumstances. It's an existential trauma. It becomes dangerous to be myself. And this is where all of that comes from. And we all experienced it to a lesser or greater degree. And it happens at a level very, very early on, certainly before the age of 7, where reasoning can kick in, but even sometimes in the womb. I mean, it goes back that deeply. Fast forward to your adult, and all of a sudden, stuff starts coming up, and it makes no sense. I worked with somebody just the other day that had assumed that something had come up and they were looking for the cause of it. I said, well, what if there wasn't one? What if there actually wasn't a cause? Right? What if it was nothing that you did? Right? That something just arose. Now, the best way to approach this, and this is inner reconciliation. This is that process I designed for exactly this, is that when something arises like that, let's say it's a panic attack. Right? Now, what is a panic attack? It means your nervous system believes it's threatened and can't do anything about it. It's literally frozen. It can't run and it can't fight. And of course, this happens a lot as we're an adult, because what we're afraid of is imaginary things. We imagine the future, a bad future. Now, we can't actually run away from it or fight it because it's not here. It's imaginary. And then the energy system reacts as if it were actually happening. So in this particular case, when something comes up, do everything you can to stay present in the body and just feel it as sensation. Notice that when that comes up, your mind immediately labels it panic attack, anxiety. It's a trauma. It's a severe trauma. This is really tough. This is going to be a really hard one. Now, that's all the story about it. Now, I'm not discounting the intensity of the feeling, but what I want you to do is get out of the story about the feeling and into the feeling itself. Remember, the mind wants us to run away from this. That was the whole idea of the suppressing of the fight and flight, to run away from that, to keep it down here and be over here. So when this starts bubbling up, it wants to push it down or get away, right? So if we can bypass the mind and instead go directly to the body, to where the energy is actually being stored, right, and feel it as a sensation without a story, you find that you can endure anything, because the feeling doesn't come and say, I'm anxiety, I'm really threatened, this is going to be really hard, I'm going to screw you up. It doesn't say that. It's just a feeling. All the thoughts about it come later. That's how quickly it happens, though, because of simply the way we've conditioned. A certain feeling arises, the conditioning immediately kicks in. We don't realize that conditioning is not original, and it's arbitrary. It's however the nervous system decided at the time to deal with the event that came up that it felt was threatening. You, in your understanding, get to a degree that it isn't really threatening, but this is where the rubber has to meet the road, where we have to turn fully towards it, right? Completely towards it, and become really adept at noticing what is the actual feeling and what is the reaction to it. What is in the body, what is in the mind, what's really here, and what's the story about what's here. And to see that they're two separate things. And seeing them as two separate things creates the gap in between. And it's in that gap that you sit and you watch both. And as you do, that gap gets bigger and bigger and bigger until finally the event itself begins to stop having that effect, because it doesn't have it innately. The event does not automatically create the reaction. If it did, everybody would react exactly the same to every single event. It is simply an event took place. The reaction is all programmed response. This is also something that EFT can help with enormously, because sitting in the middle of this, there's a tsunami going on inside of you. This is communicating through touch. I'm safe. You're safe. It's okay. You're safe. Which helps kind of bolster your resolve and allow you to really stay present with it. Because you'll notice the struggle is that the mind wants you to not be present with it. That's the mechanism trying to freeze the fight or flight mechanism. But this takes you beyond fight, flight, and freeze into presence. And in that presence, you do have power. You are not powerless. You are not vulnerable. And you find that absolutely nothing can harm you. And then all the things that come up cease to be intimidating. They become, as a matter of fact, it comes to a time when you welcome them. Oh my, great, here's another one. Here's another part of me I get to embrace. Because remember, at the bottom of it is a very scared and sad child that did not get to express himself and is afraid to express himself. Beyond all of the defense mechanisms, beyond all the dragons and demons that are trying to scare you away, there's a very wounded child. Go to him. Endure whatever you need to get to him. The dragons of these energetic patterns meant to protect you are guarding. In medieval, the dragon guards the virgin, purity, original innocence, and gold, that which has genuine value. The dragons are all trying to keep you from getting back to the reality of your original innocence, back to the real you. And that's a long-winded but in-depth discussion of what trauma is, how it works, and how you deal with it. It's often very helpful to work with others on this. I do have some people that I've trained and myself, because sometimes when these things come up, it can seem this is the role of a teacher, a coach, or somebody to basically help you stay in that space and keep reminding you, because the impulse to run away from it is very, very strong. And really that's what you're how do I get out of it? It's on a very subtle level, but when it comes up, your mind is trying to figure a way out, and I'm inviting you to go to it. You don't have to even know what it is. Sometimes this will release without ever revealing to you where the trauma actually came from, because it doesn't need to. It's not important whether you know or not on a conscious level. It knows why it's there. So if you give it the space, it'll resolve itself. It may, in that process, show you what the originating event was. Right? It did for me. When I'd completely forgotten about being tied into bed, suddenly it came back. Oh my God, that's right. So it can reveal itself. It doesn't have to. And frankly, you don't care. You want your freedom, right? But this is not a freedom from something. Right? You're not freeing yourself from anxiety. You're freeing yourself from the underlying structures that are producing the anxiety. And in order to do that, you have to face off with it. You have to go right into the heart of it. And you'll find that it's a paper tiger. Thanks for that plan. I hope my answer helped. Hello, Jerry's and Amy. Good to see you. Susan in New York. Thank you. You're welcome. Carl, GP, I was involved in a situation last week in work that I perceived as very unfair. I did my best to observe it and let it pass. I found observing others' conditioned self difficult. Is reacting always wrong? I'm still unhappy about what happened and feel the need to say something about it. Back to work on Tuesday. Do I just bite my conditioned tongue? This is where our spiritual maturity has to develop, and it can take time. Because something has come up and there's a reaction to it. Now, your number one job is to find out, is this reaction legitimate? That is it coming from me perceiving things as they are, or is it a conditioned response? If it's a conditioned response, whatever action I take will be an unconscious action, and it will only make things worse. If it is coming from your clear seeing, the response will be very measured and intelligent. It'll be without anger. It'll be without judgment. It'll be full of compassion and simply the desire to right a wrong. We can't ignore the fact that unfair things happen. They're happening all the time. The world is run by a bunch of madmen, right, doing very unfair, nasty, horrible things all the time. right? They should be called out on it. But we can't call them out from a place of anger, which really is. Remember, anger is the feeling the body has when it needs to fight a danger. Right? It's coming from a sense of vulnerability. I am vulnerable. I'm going to run or I'm going to fight. Right? When you come from that place, it's pure conditioning. Right? And it doesn't matter whether it's fair or unfair or not. Right? Because in that spot, there's no way you're going to be able to tell. There's no way you're going to get any kind of perspective on it. So this is where the rubber meets the road, in which you have to be willing to be present with your feelings enough to be able to see what's actually happening and what is my reaction to it. And the end result may be I need to do something about it, right? But even that feeling right now, I need to do something about it, could be just an egoic reaction, right? And only you are going to be able to discern the difference, right? And I've had these experiences. You know, I used to work in corporate America a lot. And, well, you're in corporate Ireland. And what I found is that if I was willing to do that, if I was willing to go through that process, even at that point, hadn't formalized it. I didn't really understand what I was doing, other than I wanted to discern between what was my perception and what was really there. Okay? And I wanted to bring about the most harmony I could. I found that oftentimes the circumstances righted themselves. I didn't need to do anything at all. So the mission then in all of life, every event in life is an invitation to go more deeply into who you really are, to discern more deeply what is a conditioned pattern and what is my true self. And from that perspective of the true self, you will see clearly how to deal with the injustices and cruelty that's going on in the world. But only from there. That's what Christ meant when he said, before you try to pull the sliver out of your brother's eye, pull the log out of your own. Right? You have to be able to see clearly enough. And you'll know you have, because a sense of equanimity will emerge. Because remember, no matter what somebody's doing, underneath is the same essential being that is you. And just like you react according to your conditioning, but have become aware of it, they are reacting according to their conditioning, but have not yet become aware of it. And therefore they are stuck in their darkness. They are living in the unconscious. They are in the realm of the ignorant, the unawake. Now, how do we regard them? with judgment, with criticism? Or, oh, that's me too. Yes. I too have been unfair. I too have betrayed trust. I too have put myself ahead of others without thinking. I too have broken the rules of the decent rules of humanity. I too have done that. And I have been blessed beyond imagination to now know that it's happening and to see a clear path out of it. They haven't seen that yet. In which case, I may have to deal with them and their unfairness, because there isn't anything I can do about it. And I can't reach them and I can't talk to them. They're simply not on a level of consciousness that allows that to take place. And at this level, it's just a bunch of fighting opinions. And when that happens, especially in a business or in governments and the like, whoever has the most power wins. It's not about what's true. It's about who's running the show. And sometimes you simply have to deal with it. Like I said, don't swim with sharks. Know that they're sharks. Those who are unconscious are not yet fully human. They are animals with a mind. They're monkeys that worry. Because there's no consciousness there. You cannot really claim humanity until that heart opens up and you begin to desire to go beyond your animal instinctual nature. Until then, you are in darkness and you're not really human. And of course, walking down the street, you can't tell who is and who isn't, but you can see it in their behavior, especially when you're in a relationship like work or something where you have to deal with them. So don't feel like you have to do something, or don't feel like you shouldn't do something. Let your intuition guide you, and don't act until you know. Don't act until there's a sense that you can do it without judgment. Until then, stay with it until you're clear. And 9 times out of 10, when you don't have to do anything. You don't have to be the savior. You don't have to take credit. You don't have to right the wrongs. Your energy brings to the situation an environment that is so safe and pure and loving that the wrongs right themselves. People instinctively and intuitively respond to it, even when they don't know how or why. Does that help, Carl? Right? And you've got today and tomorrow to be with it. So don't turn it into a process that you have to do. I'm going to be with. Just every time it comes up, stop, sit for a second, and really let yourself feel into it. Let the feelings come up. Yeah, it's unjust. Yeah, maybe it is, right? So what else is new? Look around. There's injustice everywhere. Okay, so what do I do with this? First, I just deal with me. So whenever it comes up, just be present with it and allow it to unfold. Don't go into the mind, as I was saying to play on. Don't go into the mind trying to figure out what to do with it. Let the energy itself reveal itself, and in that process, it will lay out the path. You won't have to. Remember that you don't have to figure this stuff out, right? The truth of your being is leading you to the truth of your being. It isn't like, here's the truth. Okay, kids, you're on your own. Figure it out. No, it's leaving breadcrumbs all the time. To who? To you. And what I mean by you is the sense of I, which is not the real sense, the one that's struggling and confused and doesn't know what to do, is being led back home by the true I. You are being invited out of yourself and back into yourself. The sense, the reality of you is coming out of the concept of you and into the reality of you. The I is going back to its source. Ah, beautiful. Thank you, Carl. Please, I hope that you'll tell me if it didn't help. Hello, Barbara. Billy boy, just here from Florida, send my deepest love and my warmest hug to you, GP. As always, have you in my heart of hearts. Ah, bless you. Ah, bless you. When you get to my age, you want to call everybody your son and daughter. Everybody's my son. Every girl's my daughter. Ah, wonderful. Wonderful. I so appreciate you all. Okay. Facebook user, I do have a question today for Satsang. When a situation arises that would make me angry or react, I'm able to just be in awareness and see things for what they are, a temporary arising or illusion. However, when it comes to a certain parent, I get triggered into anger. I've used EFT and other tools in my toolbox, but this one experience, it keeps repeating itself. It draws me into the illusion of separation in an instant. Then guilt arises. Then I snap out of it and don't dwell on it. Any more of this one? Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Ram Dass brilliantly says, if you want to find out if you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. And why is that? Because the energetic ties and bonds and cords and cables that connect us with an immediate family are very deep. Remember, when a child is born, when a child is conceived, it is nothing other than the mother's body. It takes 9 months to get it to the point where it can actually leave the mother's body. And even then, it can't survive on its own. It doesn't have the umbilical cord anymore, but the mother's body is now the source of its entire nutrition. It is, when we're born and conceived, we are little more than our mother's bodies. Can you see the cord that forms there, right? So when we begin this process of disidentifying with that self, there are some things that are going to be very, very sticky. You know, you can be just flying high, equanimous, nothing in the world bothers you, and something comes up and it just sends you through the roof, right? And you don't know why. And then you go, oh my God, why did I do that? Oh, now the moment that happens, the next phase of it comes, and that is, oh my God, there it is again. How could I do that? I'm supposed to be really spiritual. What's the matter with me? And I tap, 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 tap. All of that other part trying to deal with it coming up is conditioning. It's not you. And that is simply how the nervous system trained itself to deal with this person in your life, right? And if this is, and as you say, it's a parent, a certain parent, that person may not have changed at all from the annoying ass they were when you were a child, right? And it's simply that mechanism, that set of programmed responses to that person, and it just isn't the person, it's the whole environment surrounding the person, their behavior, how they treated you, all of that kind of stuff, is simply not yet been brought out into the light and exposed. It has not been embraced in love as of yet. That's all. That's all it is. And we then tend to beat ourselves up and we say, I've been dragged back into the illusion of separation in an instant. Okay, let me ask you a question. The being dragged in to the illusion of separation, is there something aware of that dragging going on? And is that awareness being dragged in to the illusion of separation? Or has the illusion of separation and all the emotional content associated with that simply arisen in front of this pure awareness? And all of it is arising, right? The illusion of separation, the feeling of being separate, then the guilt that I shouldn't feel that way. Isn't all of that being observed by exactly the same thing? So did you ever, which one of these is you? The one looking or what is being seen? And did the one looking ever actually get dragged into it? Or is it always something that's just appeared, but then the thought comes and says, oh, I have been dragged into it. You haven't. You've always been the witness. Now, this isn't a way to try to sidestep or end run or do a spiritual bypass on what's coming up, right? But it puts you in the position of power where you no longer are subject to simply the reaction, but you can watch the reaction take place. Okay? And notice that there's a subtle desire there to get rid of the reaction. Right? It doesn't matter whether you get the reaction. It doesn't matter if the reaction happens. Okay? Who you are is not the least bit touched by anything that has happened. Okay? Which means there's no meaning in this energy arising other than this energy has arisen. And it's uncomfortable. And you can see that it's the result of of past programming, right? And so you can regard it with compassion. But always bear in mind, no matter what comes up, it does not touch you. There's enlightenment isn't when all the problems aren't there anymore. Enlightenment is when you don't give a damn whether they're there or not. It simply doesn't matter. As Krishnamurti said, when asked what's his secret, he says, I don't mind what happens. It's that simple, right? It doesn't say anything about you. And you notice that's the sting, right? There's suddenly, oh, I haven't got it yet, right? That's the hook that just dragged you in to identifying with the illusion of separation, accepting it as something you have fallen into. Okay? Because I'm supposed to be something else. No, you're not. Whatever the mind comes up to is who you're supposed to be, including a Buddha. It's just a picture in the mind. That's why the Zen saying is, if you meet the Buddha on the street, kill him. There is no Buddha on the street, only right here. Okay? So the EFT then can be, from this place, the EFT can be used not to get you to separate you, to get you out of the illusion of separation, but because you're already out of it, you've never been in it. But it's to help the nervous system process this so it doesn't need to be as reactive anymore, and thus bring the peace that is the nature of the self to the entire mechanism. And so that peace becomes a lived experience and not just something that has been thought of, right? Even and even seen clearly, and even beyond where it's felt. This is what happens. We see it, and then little by little we begin to feel it. At first, we're going to feel a lot of tumult, and then eventually we live it. It is simply the way we are, and there is no reaction to it. And when there's no reaction, there's nothing left but love. Because without reaction, what remains? Pure love, pure acceptance, pure allowing, pure heart, pure compassion, pure spirit. So, Facebook user, I'm not sure which one it is, but is that you, Karina? Hopefully that, let me snap out of it and don't dwell on it. Was there more down here? I don't think so. Good. Wonderful. Great. Thank you for bringing that to me, really, because this is where the rubber meets the road, right? Where we really become spiritually mature. Right? In the beginning, we all have this sanguine hopes that life is just going to be really good from now on. I certainly did, and for the first couple of years after my my awakening at 19, it was. I just could do no wrong, right? But when the other shoe dropped, boy, did it drop. And it took me decades to learn what I'm sharing with you. So it won't take you decades. Right? I had to do everything wrong to find the right to find the right way, and it took me forever to even find a real teacher. I had all sorts of people, but they were just kind of a piece of the puzzle. I got a little bit here and a little bit there. It was finally it all congealed when I read I Am That and bumped into Zen Buddhism. It was like, oh my God. It just started tying everything together. So it's okay that this stuff comes up, right? We actually want it to. We want to be imperturbable, not experiencing stuff so that we're imperturbable, but imperturbable no matter what comes up. And we need that, because look at the world. Look at the things that are coming up. We need some real strength. We need some real power in the spiritual Sangha. And we're getting it. Beautiful. Daniel, hello from Denmark. Hello to you, Daniel. Mary, I had a beautiful opening that I was very much the divine, and that I am simply playing a role as everyone is doing. There was such peace and clarity, and after a while it faded, and the crap came back with a vengeance. I know it's very habitual. Is there more down here, Mary? Okay. Bless your heart, Mary. Welcome to the real world. Yeah. This is the spiritual path, right? That opening, I was very much the divine, and that I'm simply playing a role as everyone else. Clarity, peace, right? That is awakening. Okay, you're awake, and it's happening because the awakening is happening. Recognize it for what it is. Now, I've used this analogy before, but it's really a good one. Imagine you live someplace like Seattle in the winter, right? And many of you may, right, up in the northern Scotland and northern England and Sweden, right? A place where the skies are like gray all the time. But imagine it was all the time, right? That you'd never seen a blue sky. Right? You would think that that gray sky is the sky. And then every now and then, every couple of years or so, right, a little patch would open and blue, and there'd be the blue, right? And then it would close back up again. And everybody would, oh my God, this wonder that happened. A blue spot appeared in the sky, right? And after a while, technology would develop, and they'd, balloons, and they'd want to find out what this is. Of course, there's churches that are dedicated to it, hoping for the next coming of the blue dot, of the blue circle. Right? And now we got priesthood, and we've got, people making offerings and the like. And then, we get to the period where the scientists start going, well, maybe there's more to it. And they want to find out, what is this blue thing made of? And so up they go in like hot air balloons, the technology with their measuring devices to try to take a sample of it and see what it is, right? And they get up and they approach it. And as they approach it, suddenly they're in it. And they keep going. And they're terrified. And suddenly, whoa, above them, they go above the clouds. And they see this incredible blue sky everywhere. They realize, oh my God, this is the sky, not this. But then they come back down. What happens? It closes up again. Right? Now, did the sky disappear? Right? Only from our seeing of it. Right? You say, I was very much the divine, right? No, you are the divine, and you felt yourself in your natural state. That is the natural samadhi. That is Nirka was Sahaja Samadhi. The natural state. Right? You saw from there that everything and everyone is just playing a role, and it's not you. I am not that. And in your natural state, there was nothing but clarity and peace. Right? And then what happened? The sky just began to close again. And when it does, the mind begins to say, I lost it. Because the mind wants to now re-identify with the cloud. Whereas for the moment, that identification was gone, and you are the sky, the infinite sky of being. But the mind, of course, the thought patterns that are ingrained in the whole energy system came back with the other I, right, which isn't gone yet, right? Right? It's just reappeared, and then commandeered that event and said, I had the experience of the divine. I was the divine. There was clarity and peace. Right? And it's simply how the experience of reality gets interpreted by that which is bound by time. The experience of the timeless trying to be described by time, in the field of time. And that's what the mind is. So it may even come back strongly because it's threatened. The sense of identity, which is essential to the functioning of the nervous system, feels very threatened by that. And so it tries to commandeer it and reinterpret it. Say, oh, I lost it. Let's try again. You know, what do we do? Some people even retrace their steps. What was I thinking? What did I do? What did I meditate? How did I do it? Make that to try to recreate it as if it were an event, as if it were an experience. It's only an experience from the point of view of the mind. From the point of view of the self, it is myself. It is not an experience I'm having. And even that sense of the divine, the sense of peace, the sense of clarity, is the perfume of that of that which is aware of it. Remember, you are that which is aware of it. Now, of course, it is so clear, it is so peaceful, and we're so used to identifying with the mind, which is chaotic and unclear, that we go, oh my God, I want that. I want more of that. Give me more, please. Right? There's a sense that, but just slow down, take a step back. That is your nature. That is sahaja samadhi, the natural state. Right? Abide there. Abide, even if the feelings or the clarity aren't there anymore, abide in the truth of it. Right? Right. You don't have to feel the truth to know the truth. It'll take care of the rest. And just faith in that is enough. Right? God isn't making huge demands on us. Fear not, little flock. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. But just be clear, just be wise. Notice how the mind wants to turn it into an experience and then set you on the path of trying to reproduce it. That is the spiritual journey that most are on. They've had that, they've had that great experience, and now they're trying to reproduce the experience. Don't. You can't. It is not an experience to be reproduced. It does not have an origin, a source, or a cause. It is the causeless. It is the timeless. So, and even back with a vengeance, who said it was an vengeance? Right? Notice that too is all the mind and its story about what happened. What actually happened? You saw yourself directly. The self beheld itself. You saw God in the mirror. That's what actually happened. Lovely. And all the rest will take care of itself. All the crap, all the indoctrination you got, all the guilt and shame that was laid upon you, its days are numbered. Thank you, Mary. Hassan, hello to you. Daniel, hold on, did you have something earlier and I missed it? No. Okay, that was the first one. Daniel, there is no effort in being, so why is there a need to sustain it through inquiry if it's self-luminant and effortless? That's a wonderful, wonderful question, right? We're not doing anything in self-inquiry to sustain being. It's completely unnecessary. You don't need to get God to behave like God. What the inquiry is piercing through all the places where I have been identifying with that which is not being, and which does require a lot of effort and does drain a lot of energy. That we do have to do. We have to inquire into the nature of who I believed myself to be, not to become what I already am. You're already that, and it is effortless. And you can prove that right now. Just notice that if you just put your attention on the fact that you exist, it's effortless. You don't have to do anything to exist. You just are. And you didn't cause it. You didn't create it because you had been there first. It simply is. So it is effortless. Being is effortless. And my life will become increasingly effortless the more I'm identified with that. But we're dealing with the sense of identification that has attached itself to a sense of who I am that isn't who you are. The inquiry is piercing that wall. It is breaking down that wall of the mind to discover what's been here the whole time. And so as long as effort is required to do that, effort is given, right? Remember, the non-dual doesn't say it's this or it's this, not that. It is neither this nor that, right? It is neither effortful nor effortless, right? Put all of those opposites aside. And what you'll find is that the more you're identified with that sense of self, the more effortless the inquiry becomes. It just happens all by itself. And you'll see that, in fact, it always has been happening by itself. We thought we were doing it, right? Again, the inquiry, you didn't decide one day, I think I'm going to do spiritual self-inquiry. It just kind of happened. It grabbed your attention. It got in. It took root to the point where it's like, ooh, you want to do it now. Now, is that effortful? The effort is dealing with the resistance to it, right? The habit energy resists the inquiry, and on that level, it feels like effort is needed. Right? There is no effort to be who you are, right? There can be the necessity of effort in order to realize who you are. That's why all the great teachers have taught inquiry. They've taught practices. They've taught meditation. They've taught different ways to break down the illusion that I'm somebody efforting. Because even that isn't true. There is nobody efforting. There's the experience of someone efforting. There's nobody seeking. There's the experience of somebody seeking. When you recognize that that's it, that these are just energy patterns in the system that aren't a person, you are now free of it. And they may continue. They probably will continue for a while. That the feeling of effort will still be there, but you won't be identified with it. It won't be my personal effort. It is just the habit of efforting that the nervous system has gotten into. And as long as I don't identify with it anymore, I don't feed it, in which case it will simply dissipate. Because I'm the source of the energy. It doesn't have any of its own, right? If it doesn't plug into you, that fan can't turn, right? You're the power station, right? It's just at the end of the plug. Unplug it. It'll go for a while, but eventually it'll just stop, and you realize that you, the true self, have never, ever been efforting. You've never been seeking. You've never been anything less than the true self. Thank you, Daniel. Did that help? Rebecca, if the true self is prior to all experience, how can it be realized or known? Oh, what a beautiful question. How does one have an awareness of it without the act of experiencing to reveal it? Is it a feeling? Very good question. How do you know you exist? If you took away the body, all the functioning of the body, all sensations, all of them, all five of them, take away emotions, any kind of inner sensations, or inner kind of energy, take away all thoughts. You would still be there, right? How would you know? It's the mistake you're making is very subtle, and everybody makes it. And that is, the true self, right, must be something that has awareness. But how can I be aware of it if it's not an experience to be had? Notice you've got two. You've got awareness, and you've got somebody that is aware. In that model, which is the normal model humans do have, there has to be two for me to be aware of it. But I've just invited you to check in with your own sense of existence. How do you know you exist? Take away all the thoughts. Take away all experience. How would you know you exist? Because the true self is awareness. And this is the non-dual, non-phenomenal recognition. Awareness is aware of itself. There's nothing else in the universe that's like that. Everything else, awareness is aware of. It's self-awareness is a non-phenomenal recognition, and you do it right now. Recognize that you are. I am. How do you know? I just know. This is one of the subtlest places where the mind attempts to create a duality. How do I know? Because to the mind, the only way to know something is one thing knowing another. How can I know myself without experiencing myself? You know yourself because you are yourself. And you find that knowing and being are one. That knowing is being, and being is knowing. It is not something knowing itself. It is not something that is aware. Awareness is aware. I mean, just look at it. Could anything other than awareness be aware? So anything that would be aware of isn't aware of the awareness. It's not an other. It's not someone else. Right? This is something that your mind will struggle with because it cannot understand it. The mind cannot grasp one. It always has to have two because it has to compare and contrast. It has to describe this in terms of that. That's all a mind is that process. That's what we call thinking or even reasoning. Okay? But this doesn't apply to self-awareness, aware of itself, simply knowing itself without being two. The act of experiencing, I don't want to completely dismiss it, the act of experiencing, by definition, requires the experiencer. But the experiencer can be there whether the experience is there or not. If something is, and that happens all the time, you have an experience, it starts, it goes for a while, and then it stops, right? Everything works like that. Yet the experiencing, the knowing of that doesn't. And even without the experience, the knowing still knows itself. In fact, the reality is that's all it ever knows is itself, because all experience is nothing but itself. Well, I won't dive into that quite yet. So this is not something your mind's going to be able to figure out because it cannot grasp one. It cannot grasp being and knowing being the same thing. There must be something that knows. This is the foundation of the sense of a separate self. I am not what is known. Therefore, I and whatever is known must be different. How then do I know myself? How can I grasp the idea that I cannot be experienced? Right? Because the knowingness doesn't fluctuate. It doesn't come and go. It has no moving parts. And because it is completely still and peaceful and has no moving parts, it doesn't change. It's timeless. It doesn't exist in time, nor does it exist in space. It is dimensionless. It has no characteristics whatsoever other than itself. It is being. And being and knowing are one. Just take that in as an inquiry. Being and knowing are one. And see if you can find the being that is knowing. And you'll find all you can find is the knowing. Knowing is existence. There's no existence without knowing it, and no knowing without existence. We have to use different words, but they are not two different things. I have to use two different words, or Sat Chit Ananda, being, consciousness, and bliss, in order to voice it. But you go beyond those to the pure reality itself, which is self-experiencing, is simply self-knowing. I am the self that is and knows it is. I am that I am. Does that help, Rebecca? It's a deep question, and I really appreciate you bringing it up. I appreciate getting the chance to answer it. Robbie, hi G. Why do some objects invoke the experience of beauty more easily than others? I was looking out at pampas grass against the sky last night. From nowhere, thought, God is an artist. I'm finding beauty more and more fascinating, and would like to understand it more. Beauty and truth and the self are one. Beauty is another name for God. Right? What we look at and see as beautiful is our innate inner harmony, our oneness, and our beauty. Beauty is in the eye. Right? Somebody else can look at that same thing and say, God, this is horrible. I want to pave it and build a subdivision or a condo or a strip mall. They don't see it. So the beauty isn't in the object, it's in you. And the more you recognize that, the more you'll see it everywhere. Right? And clearly distinguish the different gradations of beauty. Clearly tell the difference between a Beethoven concerto and a song by Justin Bieber. They're not in the same league. And this is not a subjective opinion. we can discern, right? But how do we discern? Well, the beauty in you is what sees the beauty out there. It's that simple. Just like color doesn't belong to these flowers. It's just the light, they happen to be reflections. The beauty, the color, is in the light. All attributes that are perceived are attributes not of an object, but of consciousness. All the attributes: size, shape, taste, smell, color, form, gradation, shade, all of it. No belongs to the object. And when you look closely enough, you find there isn't actually an object. All there is are the qualities of consciousness. There's no object reflecting those qualities. The object is those qualities. Those qualities are consciousness. Nothing exists other than consciousness. And now you come home to the reality. I am that. It is all myself. Not my personal self, but the self of all. And we are one. You are the beauty. And this is the role of beauty. It's the role of art. The role of art is also to awaken, to express. So it isn't always beautiful in that sense, but it's often perfect in that sense, which is, of course, it's beautiful. Truthful is also beautiful. Maybe not always appealing to the senses, because that's a different kind of beauty. Right? And so one becomes capable of perceiving all the different kinds of beauty. And of course, looking at nature, what can you say? It's just stunning. It's just overwhelming. There's a little pond not that far from me, in this area that I'm living, and I'll go out early in the morning and just be in utter awe at the sheer volume of life that is in this pond. It's maybe 100 feet in diameter. It's not a seasonal one. It doesn't come and go. It's there throughout the whole year. It's perennial. Dragonflies and frogs and all sorts of creatures. I don't even know what they are. Right? Little things, bugs on top of the water, skipping on top of the water. And yeah. I am in awe of the beauty of being. And I am that. So take it in. Yeah. Just take it in. Yeah. And that you are that beauty. And you, this form that happens to be called Ravi, will have its particular mode of expressing beauty, but also the mode of appreciating beauty. So you are both life and the witness of life at the same time. This is the gift of the human being. I am the universe being able to look at itself and go, wow. Jay, is it okay if I shy away from talking about this to others? Because there's been a couple of times when people ask me what we believe in. I just leave it at that. Well, it's kind of a hard thing to explain, and sometimes I recommend watching your channel, and then I leave it up to them. I'm just not interested in poking at anyone's belief. In earlier years of this journey, I heard if somebody is happy in what they believe and do, just as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else, it's still a good rule to live by. At least do no harm, right? Oftentimes when people ask you what you believe, sometimes it's just a genuine curiosity. You could say, I'm kind of a Hindu, kind of a Buddhist, kind of a mix of a whole bunch of different things. I believe in a supreme being, but it's not like a personal kind of thing. You can explain it in very innocuous ways if you sense that there's a genuine desire for communion. Sometimes people really just want to know each other. We want to commune with one another, and that's how we do it. They might as well be asking you, who are you? That's really the question. Who are you? What do you believe in, right? Are you Republican? Are you Democrat? Are you communist, right? What do you believe in? And if it's sincere, it's simply our natural human desire to connect. If it's not sincere, like Jehovah's Witness coming to your door, we really would like to talk to you about God. No, you don't. You want to tell me. You don't want to listen. You don't want to have a conversation, right? At that point, you can just say, not really anything. Life's pretty interesting. I find it pretty amazing. What about you? And just turn it back on them, right? You'll be able to discern quite quickly whether it was an open invitation for human connection or a moment to proselytize. But when it comes to this kind of deep spiritual inquiry, Papaji said it, Nisargadatta said it, Mbuji said it. Keep quiet. Let it grow. Let it mature. Let it marinate. That's the way Mbuji likes to put it. Right? There's no need to talk about it. Sometimes the opportunity will come up and it'll be clear and the words will just come. But you don't need to try to stop them, and you don't need to try to make them happen. Again, just use it as an opportunity to get more deeply into your own intuition about it. Be guided by your innate wisdom to know when, no, there's not really, there's really nothing to be gained here. There's no real, even if by helping awaken them, but something to be gained just by human connection, because we all love it. It's part of the human experience, is this capacity to connect, and we connect deeply when we share what each others believe and think and feel is true, right? Because that's what it's about. We connect when we are sharing our truth, and our truth may be completely off. It may be completely bogus. It may be steeped in all sorts of different silly things. Right? And we can discern that, but that desire is very, very real. So just use it as yet another opportunity. Don't force yourself to not talk. Don't turn any of this into rules you have to follow. It is always an invitation to go to the place that is beyond rules. It doesn't need rules because the truth is written in your heart and you are the truth. The truth doesn't need any rules to express itself. It just does. And since you are the truth, you don't need any rules, right? The expression will happen. And as in the beginning, there is this need to question. There is this need to examine because we've all been habituated into patterns that weren't conscious. And so we have to be willing to examine all of those and thus dismantling the unconscious, the conscious appears. We don't become conscious. Consciousness simply gets obscured like that gray sky, right? And the little thing parts and now there's the blue. It's always there. That perfect peace and clarity are always there. But they're not necessarily the clarity of thought. No, I'm digressing. I'll stick with your question, Jay. So it is hard to explain, but after a while you get better at it. But believe me, I don't dump this on everybody that I meet. Sometimes I just listen to quietly to what people have to say, right? No, just looking to see if there is a road into at least a genuine connection. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. In the meantime, just be such a beautiful and sweet presence that who you are is really unmistakable to them. You don't have to say it. They feel it. Beautiful. GP, how to deal with other people's pain body. Well, one of the first things that I recommend is cast the sliver out of your own eye. That which can't deal with their pain body is your pain body. Oops, sorry. Anytime we get offended, we can't deal, we want to push away, we have some kind of an aversion, we're dealing with our pain body. What is the pain body other than the energetic traumas and patterns and stuff that have been ingrained in the nervous system that come out periodically? Sometimes come out, with a big huff. That's all the pain body is. It's a great image, right? I kind of prefer referring to it as the robot because the pain body, it makes it sound like it may be sentient. It's not sentient. It's patterns. That's all. It's patterns of functioning. Like a car is a pattern of functioning. It's not self-aware. Neither is the pain body. It is programmed responses. And one of those programs responses is an aversion or taking offense, right? If you recognize that, you go, oh, okay, this is part of the cascade. Somebody did something, right? I recognize it as their pain body, but there's still part of me that is simply unconsciously reacting to them. So recognizing that it is a pain body is a good step. Awakening has occurred, right? But you got to go all the way with it so that you see even the reaction to it is also the pain body. And that's the one that you're responsible for, right? You're not responsible for them, only for yours. And you'll know that's gone when you see the pain body and you have no reaction. Your compassion goes because the pain body is not a conscious choice on anybody's part. It is always an automatic reaction, that there's not enough consciousness there yet to see that it is an automatic reaction. And what happens instead is that the sense of the person identifies with that reaction. So that reaction now becomes my reaction. It becomes who I am. And that is the state of darkness. That's the state of being unaware. That is the state of unconsciousness. That is the state that the light comes to, which is the guru. That's what the word guru means, one who dispels darkness. And this is the darkness that gets dispelled. So you watch your reaction first, right? And just be with that and notice, there's there are reactions to it that are unpleasant. There's maybe some judgment or some criticism or any of those things. Just notice. But now, don't go, oh God, I got to stop being judgmental. No, notice that the judgmentalness itself is the pain body. Right? That is the reactive pattern. And you still remain that which is aware of the reactive pattern. And the more you see that, the more the sense of I disidentifies with the reactive pattern and identifies more with the witness of that pattern, at which point the pattern can begin to dissolve. And at that point, somebody else's pain body won't make a bit of difference to you. How's that, Hassan? Great answer to plan, says Mary. Thank you, Mary. Plan. Thank you for your answer, GP. Much appreciated. It helped. Sometimes when I had this problem, I'd taken some CBD oil and other supplements to relieve the tension. Is that cheating? I don't drink or do other. There we are. I don't drink or do other drugs. It's not cheating. No, it's okay. If, sometimes you have a headache, you take an aspirin, right? It isn't. Notice how the mind wants to set this up in such a way that there's this certain moral or spiritual behavior that is required. I went through that very early on, thinking that was what it was. And boy, I just twisted myself into knots. I deprived my things of just simple pleasures of life because I was in this, this war with human nature that somehow I was supposed to explain away, or it was just an illusion. I needed to make it go away. And all it did was cause me pain. No, it's not cheating, right? Taking CBD oil or some other kind of supplement. I take some supplements because it's really hard to get a balanced diet in the United States, right? It's that simple. The food just isn't as nutritious as other places, right? So, I mean, it's no more of cheating than doing tapping, which I teach people how to do, right? It is a temporary aid to help you maintain the distance, right? If your ultimate goal isn't to become reliant on those and then just suppress all the feelings through some kind of drug or technique, it's to help you. It's to help the whole nervous system process those, release the traumas, so it doesn't have to be experiencing that anymore. Now, that's a completely different motivation, right? So if that happens, great, right? Don't make a big deal out of it. Here's what you can do, though, and it's very, very powerful, right? Because notice how you're heaping some guilt on yourself for doing something that seemed to be expedient in the moment, right? I make this recommendation to people, maybe somebody who does drink or does smoke or does, is dependent on something, right? Tap while you're doing it because it makes a difference, right? If I'm in the middle of this, habitual pattern, but at the same time, this message is getting into my nervous system, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe. It's going to create a little dissonance in there that the nervous system is going to have to try to resolve, and it will bring about some healing. There's a wonderful story of heard from Steve Wells, who's a EFT guy that I like. I've actually stolen some things, some techniques from him. And he told his partner, David Lake, business partner, not personal partner, had this one woman who had severe OCD to the point where it would take her 2 hours to leave the house whenever she wanted to go anywhere. And rather than going into a whole lot of rigmarole and tapping with her, I don't know if he did any advance, but he said, okay, here's what I want you to do. I just want you to tap on the side of your fingers while you're going through your whole ritual to get out of the house. That's all he had to do. No processing, no words, no nothing. Just introduce this other energy into the system. That was the only one. It wasn't using the points, just the side of her fingers. Right? In about 2 weeks, it was down to an hour. The next week, it was down to like 30 minutes. It was get down to 15 minutes. She asked him, well, how long does it usually take somebody to leave a house? And he says, about 15 minutes. Right? She did nothing except introduce this energy into the system. Now, look how gentle that is, how forgiving. Right? So use what tools are available, recognizing that they are tools and that we're not trying to fix you. You know, all the tools are to bring the energy system in line with who you really are, because it's been acting as if you were somebody else. That's what this is about. We are not making you be anything other than what you already are. We're just harmonizing the whole rest of your life so it reflects that and not the false sense of identity that it has been. How's that plan? Thank you for that. Thank you very much. Brother G, can you speak on the difference between sentience and awareness? Is sentience another word for consciousness, which is illuminated by awareness? Well, it really depends on how you define the words. I happen to notice that that was a title to a video that kind of passed by me. That was actually I thought I might listen to that when it went by this morning, but I didn't really have time to do it. That exact same question, that there's a difference between sentient awareness, from Francis Lucille, another teacher that I do admire and will recommend. Right? It really is how you define the words. Right? I use sentience as simply aware. It is awareness. It is that which is consciousness. It is the point of cognition. Right? And as to the insentient, which is everything else, right? The finger is not sentient. It does not see itself, right? Only consciousness is sentient. It's the animating principle. Nisargadatta would draw a distinction between the word consciousness and awareness. Consciousness being consciousness of the world, the universe, the sum total of all being, or God, and awareness being the pure non-dual, which is prior even to that. And so he would use those terms in that way. And if you understand him that way, you understand what he means, right? I don't remember him ever using the word sentient. I've used it, especially in trying to point out that the habit energy of the human mind and body is not sentient. It is not self-aware. The awareness of it is you. Is what we would have to call consciousness or knowingness or awareness, right? That to me is sentience, right? I guess I'm gonna have to watch the video to see how Francis described it. So I would say yes, right? But there's subtle differences. Yes, they are the same to me. Right? There's subtle differences. Being aware, right, means I am sentient. But when I'm talking to somebody, right, I'm talking to a sentience, am I not? If I'm talking to my car, I'm not. But if I'm talking to you, I am. Right? There is an awareness of me, and there's an awareness of you. Right? So I would refer to you as sentient. In that sense, it is slightly different, right? As I'm referring to an individualized manifestation of awareness, which we would then call sentient. But that awareness that is you and that awareness that is me is the same awareness, the appearance of it. And so this has sentience, this doesn't have sentience, is a useful way for sorting things out, right? Life tends to have sentience, right? And our world is divided in between the sentient and the non-sentient, right? Between the animate and the inanimate, right? But the bottom line is, what is consciousness, right? You can use all these words to express it, but let's not get lost in the weeds, you know, looking for your hat, right? That's on your head, right? What am I? Right? Consciousness is all I know. Without consciousness, there's nothing. Right? I don't exist. So whether I call it consciousness or awareness or sentience, look beyond the words to what is your direct experience of being. Right? And the direct experience of being is this point of cognition that I call consciousness. We could say that pure awareness is pure awareness with no content whatsoever. Awareness only aware of itself and nothing else. It is, it knows it is, and there is nothing else. That's the absolute. But the nature of the absolute is that in that self-knowing, it gives birth to universe upon universe upon universe upon universe upon universe. That activity, you might call, of consciousness that gives expression to the infinite nature of the pure absolute being. Best way I can explain it. Hopefully that was a help, Brother Brent. Hopefully that clarified it and not the other way around. Facebook user, hi, this was my question. Thank you. It's arising in front of the pure awareness. Yes. Yes. Very good. Thank you. You're welcome. I guess I was right. It was Karina. I had a feeling it was you. Brent, the path is just pure grace. Yes, the path is you. Grace is you. Truth is you. It is you revealing you to you. Let me hear it for me. Yay, me. Thank you. I'm grateful. Oh, very good. Jay said, I remember you saying something along the lines, as long as you have this body, it's always going to be reacting to its environment. That's starting to sink in. There isn't much of resistance to the process. I don't mind what happens. LOL. Yay. Yeah. That's all the body is an interaction of environment. It's not even as if it's separate from the environment. The body is the environment. It's forever. It's forever interacting with it. The idea that there's this and the environment is an illusion. There is no this and that. It's only the environment. That's all there is. All of this is arising, right? All of it as one single functioning. I mean, your lungs take in the air, they put it into the blood, it gets delivered to a whole bunch of places, right? So the lung has a symbiotic relationship with all these cells. It has to, collect oxygen and other little things, put it into the blood. So it's got a relationship with the blood, then has a relationship with the cells, right? We call that a body, but the air that the lungs are breathing in is being breathed out by trees. So why do we regard them as separate? As far as I'm concerned, they're the lungs. They're as much a part of the lungs as this part over here that's pumping it in. And guess what? I pump it out and they breathe it in, right? So where is this line between me and other? Where is this line between me and the environment? It's imaginary. It doesn't exist. It's as imaginary as the borders between countries. They don't exist. They're completely made up and then believed to be real and defended with weapons. It's like, how stupid can we be? Anyway. Hey, Peter, in Italy, much love to you. When everything is calm within and nothing is triggered, the mind is like, now what? Yes. Something triggered me. What do I do now? The mind does not want to be quiet. Nisargadatta even once said, don't get bored with peace. What a great, what a wonderful little reminder. So the mind's going to go, yeah, okay, this is cool. Now what? Mary, I used to think the false sense of identity was rather demonic. That is the story I had brought in from indoctrination. Thank you, GP. No, it's not. No. It's demonic from the point of view of the ego, which doesn't like what it's doing. But there's no such thing as a demon to the true self, to the God self, to the real you. There's no demons. You just see how these are just this particular activity. Then the system handles it this way. It's not a problem, so it's not a demon. There are no demons. TG coaching. Is there anything to do? Yes and no. You want to make it hard, and some people say, well, there's nothing to do, we shouldn't be efforting, and then you make this huge effort to not effort, right? There's nothing to do, so then we make this huge effort to not do. Can you see that they both revolve around the same egoic sense of I? I'm the doer, I'm the not doer. It is kind of a non-doing. It is coming to the recognition that there's never been somebody doing it, that the doing it is just happening. It's like there's nobody growing your hair, right? It's just happening. We don't sit home at night, I can't go out tonight. I'm sorry. I've really got some hair I have to grow. It just happens. There's a sense of a doer that arises to take ownership. It says, I did that, or I need to do that, or I want to do that. But that's just a false sense. There never was a doer. There was never anything to do because everything is just happening. So losing the sense of being a doer does not mean the activity that we used to call doing doesn't still happen. We just don't see it as doing anymore. We see it as this beautiful flow. Life is simply flowing, like a river heading for the ocean. Nobody's doing the river, right? The river is just this flow, and it's just happening. Your entire life and every event in it is that. The sense of a doer is the illusion projected on happening. And when it's badly taught, there is no doer, or taught prematurely, or there's nothing to do, people get that same sense of I then tries to not do, right? Instead of seeing through the illusion of a doer and doing. And now it's just life happening. This is the Tao, and you just harmonize with it. It's like, oh, this is what's happening. It just harmonized. And now you're in the Tao. You're in the flow. You are the harmonious human. Does that answer it for you? TG coaching? I feel your words of resonance, says Matt. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Matt. Thank you. Sometimes I just kind of like sit back and marvel at it all. Just the incredible intelligence. Ooh. Jay, yesterday when this question got brought up, I did say, if you have heard of Buddhism, it's similar to that. But if you check about this channel, it's more directed to the point. Very good. My supplement is red wine, says Andrew. I have to say I like red wine too. Yeah. So, play on. I understand your situation very well, says Mary. Mary, it's nice to hear. Thank you. Roberto, my man. Yay. Rebecca, if an enlightened being doesn't mind what happens, why take aspirin for a headache? Why not just let the headache be? Sometimes they will. Sometimes they won't. Right? There's no hard and fast rules. What you're pointing at here, and it's an important point, Rebecca. It's a fine point, because I got stuck there early on when I was practicing metaphysical healing, right? You just nothing. You did nothing. You took no remedial effort whatsoever. It was completely within, dealing with it in your mind. I found it to be such an extreme that what happens is that the inquiry into the nature of itself, of the self, gets lost in the drive for results. that healing becomes an end in and of itself. And I stopped the practice of metaphysical healing for that very reason. It was actually misleading. Right? The point is, it doesn't matter whether you do or you don't. It has no effect on the quality of the inquiry. It has no effect on who you are. This is what has to be seen. There is no human activity or process or practice, however good, right, that is what brings about awakening. It is not the result of some action. The truth of your being requires nothing for it to be the truth of your being. And so let there be, okay, they're enlightened being, why are they taking it? Why don't they just be with what is? Notice that's the mind trying to understand something from its perspective, right? I mean, Ramana Maharshi, if somebody asked a question like that once, she says, well, tell you what, become enlightened and then ask me that question. Okay? Make being that enlightened being your goal, right? And then you'll know why they behave the way they do or the way they don't. The mind tries to understand it for a variety of reasons, and none of them are impure. None of them are malevolent. It wants to understand. It wants to be awakened. But to the mind, to be awakened means there are certain behaviors that I have adopted. Right? I thought that very early on. I thought that was it. Right? That I would then be that. I would consciously be embodying it. And all I was doing was acting out an idea of what the spiritual reality was. I wasn't actually being the spiritual reality. And then this is it, right? Right? If I take an aspirin, that is the Buddha taking an aspirin. If I just sit with the headache instead, that's the Buddha sitting with the headache. Now, I will caution people to just not immediately grab for the relief, to be willing to do the inner work, to really be with what is coming up, to understand what its origin is. But that's different, isn't it? Your motivation is different. It isn't about the headache or absence of a headache. And sometimes you say, damn it, I don't want a headache. Take an aspirin. Right? You'll eventually realize that the headache goes away, not because the aspirin has any power, but because you believe it does. And that becomes a whole other thing in and of itself, a whole different kind of inquiry. But take all the burden off of you that you need to be in a certain way or follow certain rules or doing certain things in order to awake. You don't. Fear not, little flock. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. You don't have to do anything for it because it's already who you are. And so just take that in and be happy. What is the mind needed for? If the observer is ever present and remains untouched by the mind, whatever it is up to, what is the mindset's purpose? Its purpose. Well, let's see, 153. Okay. This and one more question. Okay. no more question. So I want to give a good job answering this. When I talk about the mind, first off, what is a mind? The mind is a word used to designate a kind of functioning. In this case, it is the functioning of thinking. It is the flow of thoughts, right? The mind doesn't think, right? Any more than the wind blows, right? The wind is, what we call wind is air moving, right? We say blowing, right? As if there's somebody going, the big puffy cloud. There's nobody blowing. So wind refers not to a thing, but to a functioning, some a whole series of events that are going on. So mind does not refer to a thing. It refers to a whole bunch of stuff going on. Now, that whole bunch of stuff going on, this flow of thoughts, without judging them, is there any problem with them? Right? Like the wind moves, rivers flow, right? Thoughts flow, emotions flow. Is there a problem? Right? So if I look at it like that, I see that all of this is an integral functioning of life, which then is an integral functioning of consciousness, that the flow of everything is in fact consciousness. The attributes of consciousness manifest, right? When I designate it as mind, and I use that term and I'm forever clarifying what I mean by it to make sure that it's understood, is that from an awakened place, however slight that awakening might be, we begin to discriminate. We begin to assess the quality of these thoughts, right? We begin to see that, no, this isn't a very good one. This isn't a very useful one, right? Now, I put those into words like that, but the discernment of the quality of it isn't a thought, is it? It's a recognition. That isn't mind, is it? Huh? Now, when I make mind, what happens is that because it's natural for the way thought processes work, it's called abstraction, right? So the word mind is an abstraction. It abstracts into a word what in fact is a very complex functioning, right? So I say, a car is, I say car, and you all know what I'm talking about, right? I don't have to describe, oh, this vehicle, this thing that moves you from one place to another, and it's got four wheels, and I don't have to do that. I could just say car. We all know what we're talking about. That's an abstraction. It's a single idea or a single concept or a single word that represents something much larger. That's what mind is. It is a word that represents this functioning. Now, what's fascinating about the way the mental process works is that this is part of what I call the storyteller mind. The moment we have an abstraction, a word, it tends to become an object in and of itself, as if it were a thing. And the mind starts manipulating it and treating it as if it were a thing in and of itself, rather than a representation of something else. At which point we make up stories about it. And my problem mind, what's the problem? This mind, what a problem it is. I've got to get rid of it. What we've done is literally create something out of nothing. We've invented an entity we've created a concept. We've given it characteristics of being a self-acting entity, and now we're fighting with it, right? Mind as entity does not exist. It doesn't, there is no mind separate from the flow of thoughts, right? And so what is the purpose of the mind? Well, whatever the purpose of the flow of thoughts is, that's it. And it's not an absolute purpose, right? Because thoughts flow in different ways, like everything else, and the purpose can change. And now I have this purpose, and the thoughts will change accordingly. It is just this very flexible, very fluid system. Let's see if I'm getting. So the mind isn't up to anything, right? That sense of separation makes us separate from the thought patterns. We see them now as a problem I have to solve. If I recognize that there is no separation, that they don't exist independently of consciousness, they can't. A thought can't. It can't think itself. You can't go somewhere and find a thought. It is completely intertwined with you, right? Without you, there is no thought, right? Without thought, there's still you, right? And so seeing it like that, it's kind of like the dream at night. It's all me. So the thought is appearing to me, it's appearing in me, and it's made of me. So there's nothing other than myself. And now the whole question of mind and ego and all of that just falls away. They don't exist. We have habits of thinking of them as if they were entities. Right? And so when you grasp that, the discernment deepens and you know who you are. That discernment that is judging the quality literally transforms those flows, that flow of thought, into its service. And we see that the conscious expression that is the flow of thought is one with me. It is myself. And now it reflects my true self, coming out in words and in actions and in deeds and all sorts of things. So does that help you, TG coaching? Wonderful, wonderful. Keep up the coaching. Hi, GP. Once the self has revealed itself to itself, is it still helpful to inquire into the egoic I? I can't tell if I struggle to trust myself, trust my seeing, or if I struggle to trust life. Great question, Brent. Great question. And here's the answer. I can't tell if I struggle to trust my seeing. That's what's happening. You've seen it. It's clear to you. It's clear to you, right? You have seen it, right? So now what? What we're dealing with is what everybody experiences. Like Mary did. She had this great awakening and then it all came back again, right? Doubts and struggles and darkness. And because you've tasted the Almighty, right? This tastes foul, right? I want this is a real meal. I'm just snacking here, right? But what happens is we become a conflict emerges, and it's a conflict between what you've seen and the habit energy of our conditioning, right? That isn't seeing it, and it brings up fear and doubt and concern. It's like, how can I try? Is it really true? Did it really work? Did I really see that? And this is where this to me is one of the most important places to have a teacher, because they can help you sort out all of this kind of stuff. And it's simply a matter is, do you coming to trust your vision despite the fact that the evidence of your senses and all the habit energy opposes it and disagrees, because you know which one is actually true. Right? And this is the demand of faith. This is what faith is. Actually coming to live that which you've already seen is true. As Paul put it in the translation, that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. In the Amplified Bible, that is translated as faith, perceiving as real fact that which is invisible to the senses. You're perceiving the truth of something even though all the evidence is opposing it. And this is the power of faith. Right? I know it's true. Right? And when doubt comes up, what does it mean? It means doubts come up. Because doubt, the darkness, the fear, all of those come up. The mind, the habit energy go, oh, this is really, see, you don't really have it yet because this fear is here. Well, if fear comes up, what does that mean? It means fear has to come up. If doubt comes up, what does it mean? Doubt has come up. Are you the doubter? No. It is simply the doubting, which is the habit energy that has appeared. Disidentify with it. It doesn't mean anything. The self has no doubts. Doubt is appearing in consciousness. Fine, let it appear. If I decide it's a problem I have to solve, it's got me. Flypaper all over me. It has installed the Velcro, right? But if it's like, it doesn't matter, it really doesn't matter. There's a sense of doubt. There's doubting thoughts. There's doubting feelings. What do they mean? Nothing. They are nothing. It's up to me to decide whether they have significance or not. And if I do, I will have created my own enemy. And I'll be in a fight with something that doesn't even exist, a figment of my imagination. How's that, Brent? Great satsang. Thank you. Thank you, John, Rebecca. Thank you. You're welcome, Mary. Thank you for affirming that we do not need to become something other than who we already are. Christianity taught me the opposite. Yes. And yes, and unfortunately, Christianity is wrong. Not Jesus, the sage of Nazareth. You know, he did get it, as far as I can tell. But Christianity was commandeered shortly after that by the Roman Empire, and did a good job of perpetuating a false version of it, which then just became even more virulent and ugly in the evangelicals. So you are already free of that. Even all the doubts and the old habit patterns, their days are numbered, Mary. Leon, great satsang. Thank you, GP. You're welcome. Jay, thank you. I'm blessed to have you as my teacher. Sometimes imagine telling Indian spiritual teachers, hey, guess what the teacher that broke the shell for me is a white guy. I heard somebody saying that in India, who was a student of Muji, as am I. In India, they say, you have a guru. Yeah, I have a guru. He says, really? Who is he? He says, well, he lives in Portugal. He's Portuguese. He lives in Portugal. No, he's from Jamaica. Complete being befuddled. What? Your teacher is a black guy from Jamaica living in Portugal. The white guy broke the mold. Love you, Jay, says Mary. Thank you, GP. Fascinating listen. You're welcome, TG. Love to you, Mary. Love, 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 love. What a grace to have the opportunity to listen to you. Thank you, Ava. Thank you, brother. Love Satsang Sundays. Hello from the red wine part of the world. Paso Robles. Yes, indeed. I have visited the wine country. Oh, so beautiful. All right, everyone. Thank you all for being here with me today again. All my love to you, always. And just remember who you are. You all, and have always been.